And what you have here is fundamentally a view of your AR. Now, let's start with the very first module, onboarding, getting the right customers on board and assessing their risk. A lot of businesses don't have a way to do that really efficiently at the moment. It's always done manually through paper-based forms, and there's no real data behind it. It's kind of a gut feeling, and they use something called trade references. So we've tried to reimagine that whole process from a more digital aspect, and to say, how do you give a business the tools to manage onboarding and credit assessments seamlessly, cost effectively, and quickly. It starts with getting applications sent to your potential clients. Now, sending a credit application can be done by paper. We've digitized it and said, you know what, we'll help you create a white labeled application in a matter of seconds. You can add your terms and conditions, you can add your privacy policy. Once you've got that there, you can get a link that you can then share on every medium in which you communicate with potentially new prospects, on your website, on your e-commerce store, through your email, through wherever you like. And that link is basically a smart application form that when you send it to your customer, they can start the process of interacting with you to apply for trade credit. Right, and that's really important because a lot of businesses don't do this in a very formal way, and this is the first interaction that your customer typically has with a business. So you want to give a really good first impression, and this is linked up to the Australian Business Registry networks. It'll automatically pull an ABN, it'll validate data, and helps your potential prospects complete an application form in a matter of minutes with the data that you actually need to then make an assessment if you want to assess risk. Once the customer has actually completed the form, you can see in here, it'll be in the ezyCollect system, and you as a credit manager can log back into ezyCollect and say, okay, let me check out what this customer actually filled in. You can see who filled it in, you can see their address, you can see who was the director, or at least who they said was the director, and any ID verification documents that you would have asked them to upload. Then, what most businesses would typically do was just say, oh, let me call the trade references and see if they're a good or a bad customer. But we all know people don't give bad trade references. So what we've done is we provide you with a credit score straight from a third-party bureau as part of the system as well. So you as a supplier, before you make a decision to give trade credit, you can now use a data-driven approach to say, you know what, according to external data in a trade bureau or a credit reporting bureau, even though the trade references might say they're a great customer, I can see that their failure risk is really high, or it's really low, or their late payment risk is very high or very low. And that gives you more security and more peace of mind to know that if I am trading with this person, it's a good or a bad risk. You can validate, it says that this is the executive according to our bureau data. Is that what they actually said in the application form? And if the risk is very high, you can go in and actually buy a full credit report, and then you can drill down into a lot more information around director PPSRs, you can cross directorships, you can look into data around any other legal or court actions that might be currently underway with those directors, who else has done a credit check on that business. So it's really about giving you that peace of mind to make better decisions. And of course, at some point, you can do the actual reference check, put in your details, yep, spoke to this person, all good, hit save, and Bob's your uncle. Off you go. You can then open up the trade account. You can put in how much you want to give them as trade credit, and when you approve it, it'll create the customer back in your ERP for supported ERPs. So that's closing that whole loop. So now the customer's been created. So that in itself is could be a product all by itself. But really, what you want to say here is, but it's just one part of the puzzle, as I mentioned to you, to solving late payment. And once you have a customer on board, a lot of businesses stop looking at a customer in terms of risk. What you can then go into ezyCollect, and you can get real-time scores on these customers at any point in their journey. But more importantly, if you go to the Credit Insights tab, you can view those customers not just by aging, but by the risk levels that we've determined on an ongoing basis. So at any point in the, let's say it's 6 months later, you've logged into ezyCollect, you can profile your entire ledger, because don't forget, we integrate and we sync all the time, so the data is always up to date. You can say, okay, I have 22 customers that might be a potential relationship issue. What does that mean? Right, so we explain everything down here, but just to give you the summary, these are customers that are paying other suppliers on time. So they're paying the market, the under the water iceberg example, they're paying them on time, and we can tell that to you because we have that data from the external sources, but they're paying you late because we know how late they're paying you in your own accounting system. And that is a potential relationship issue, because why are you not being paid? Are you not a key supplier? Are they taking advantage of you? And you can see that customer group is about 9% of everything that's owed to you. You can then go into that customer group and actually take action, right? So you can see those customers, in this example, are paying the market on time. That's what we call late payment and failure risk. That's market scores, but they're paying you very late. That's the internal score. So you might then choose to add them to monitoring, which basically means that we'll send you alerts if anything happens with that customer that might be, like a director changing or adverse events that you want to know about. But in this case, you might say, hey, I want to select all those customers at bulk. You can filter them for whatever other criteria that you might want, and you can then do a bulk communication, email, SMS, whatever you want, and it'll do that for you in minutes. So you stay on top of your debtors. Really small thing, but super valuable and very, very effective when it comes to managing late payment.